The ballroom sparkled with golden lights, filled with laughter and clinking glasses. It was Zenith Corp's annual award night, an evening meant to celebrate the best employees of the year. Everyone was dressed in their finest. Smiles were everywhere. But at table 14, Camille Harris sat quietly, her hands hidden under the tablecloth, fingers nervously twisting. She looked around at the crowd, nodding politely as coworkers passed by, some offering forced smiles, others ignoring her completely. She had spent 3 years working harder than anyone else in the room, staying late, solving problems, fixing mistakes that weren't hers. And tonight, she was sure all that hard work would finally be noticed. At the front of the room stood Lucas Benton, the team manager. Tall, confident, and always with a smug smile, he held the microphone and began calling names. "Let's begin with the Rising Star Award," he said, his voice smooth. Names echoed through the room, followed by claps and cheers. Camille clapped too, even for people she had trained herself. Some of them had barely lasted a year, but still she smiled and clapped. Then came the award she was waiting for, Excellence in Innovation. That was the one. She had saved $1 million client account just 3 months ago. The client had even written a letter of thanks, naming her directly. Her heart started to pound. She sat up straighter. Lucas smiled again. "And the award goes to Ryan Palmer." Camille blinked. People cheered. Ryan stood up, looking surprised. He gave a sheepish smile and walked to the stage. But Camille sat frozen. Ryan had helped with the project, but it was her strategy, her reports, her late nights. Why wasn't her name called? She didn't even care about the trophy. It was the silence that hurt. No one at her table looked at her. She could feel the heat in her chest, but she kept her face still. "Just keep smiling," she told herself. "Don't make a scene." But before Lucas could move on, another voice rose from the front of the room. "Excuse me, Lucas," said Evelyn Monroe, the company's CEO. She stood up slowly, calm but firm. "I believe you skipped someone." The room went quiet. Camille looked up. Evelyn's eyes scanned the room. "Camille Harris, would you please come forward?" Gasps. Heads turned. Camille's heart jumped into her throat. She stood slowly, unsure what was happening. As she walked toward the front, every step felt heavier than the last. Evelyn met her halfway, holding out a sealed envelope. "This," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "was meant for you." Lucas's face turned pale. Ryan froze. Camille took the envelope, her hands shaking. She opened it to find a printed certificate, with her name clearly written across the top. Evelyn placed a hand gently on Camille's shoulder and looked toward the crowd. "Some people may be good at talking, but some are better at doing. Tonight, we honor the doers." The crowd clapped slowly at first, then louder. Camille tried to smile, but her lips trembled. She wasn't used to this kind of attention. She looked back at Lucas. He avoided her eyes. For the first time in a long while, Camille stood tall. The whole room was watching now, not out of pity, but with something close to respect. And just like that, everything began to change. Camille Harris grew up in a small, noisy apartment in Houston with her mother, Diane. Diane was a nurse who worked night shifts and double shifts just to keep food on the table. Life was never easy, but Diane always told Camille one thing: work hard, stay kind, and never let anyone make you feel small. Those words stayed with her. Camille was the kind of child who kept to herself. She didn't have many friends, but she read a lot and always finished her homework early. At school, teachers loved her because she was smart and respectful. By the time she reached high school, she was at the top of her class. She won a scholarship to the University of Texas and studied business and finance. Her dream was simple: to give her mom a better life. When she graduated, Camille got a job at Zenith Corp, one of the biggest companies in the state. It was hard to get in, and even harder to stay. From her first day, she worked longer hours than everyone else. She didn't complain. She didn't gossip. She just did her job. People liked that she didn't try to steal the spotlight. But over time, that also made her invisible. Camille's manager, Lucas Benton, was the opposite of her. Loud, flashy, and always joking. He wore designer suits and called people champ or kid. At first, he said he saw great promise in Camille. He asked for her help on big projects. But everything changed the day she quietly told him one of his jokes in a meeting wasn't funny. She didn't laugh. She just stayed silent. After that, Lucas stopped inviting her to important meetings. He stopped saying her name when talking about team success. Sometimes, he even gave her work to others and let them take the credit. Still, Camille stayed. She needed the job. Her mother's health had started to fail. High blood pressure, bad knees, and then a heart problem. Medical bills kept piling up. Camille sent money home every month, skipped vacations, and avoided shopping. Every dollar mattered. There were a few good people at work. June, an HR associate, often checked in on Camille. She'd say things like, "I see you, girl. Don't let them break you." They weren't close friends, but June's small kindness kept Camille going. Camille also had a few co-workers she trained, people who were fresh out of college, full of energy. Some respected her. Others ignored her once they got promoted. It hurt, but she stayed focused. Camille's desk was always neat. Her emails were always on time. Her ideas were clear, sharp, and often saved the company money. But someone else always got the praise. Sometimes she wondered if she should quit, maybe start over somewhere new. But where? And with her mom's health getting worse, she couldn't take the risk. So every morning, Camille got dressed, pulled her curly hair into a bun, wore her plain heels, and walked into that office like nothing was wrong. But something was wrong. She was tired. Not just the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the kind that builds up in your chest. She felt like she was fading. She had dreams once. She wanted to lead a team, speak at conferences, help young women like her feel seen. But now those dreams felt far away, like things for other people. Then came the night of the company awards. She thought maybe this time, someone saw what she did. Maybe this time, her name would be called. It wasn't. And that moment in the ballroom broke something in her, but also lit something too. Because someone else had been watching. Someone more powerful than Lucas. And now, everything was about to change. After the award night, Camille didn't stay to take pictures or have dessert like the others. She picked up her small purse, walked out of the ballroom quietly, and waited for her ride alone. The night air was cool, but her face felt hot. She couldn't stop thinking about how Lucas looked so proud standing up there, skipping her name like she didn't exist. As she waited outside, her phone buzzed. A text from June. Come to the 16th floor. Now. CEO's office. Camille's heart jumped. She thought maybe it was a mistake, but she replied, on my way. When the elevator doors opened, the floor was quiet. Most people had already gone home. Camille walked down the hallway slowly. She had never been in the CEO's office before. Evelyn Monroe was standing by the window, still in her silver dress from the event, but her heels were off. She turned around when Camille entered and gave her a warm but serious look. Thank you for coming, Evelyn said. Please sit. Camille sat down on the leather chair, trying not to look nervous. I've been watching your work for a while now, Evelyn. And tonight, I couldn't stay silent. Camille didn't know what to say. Her hands were cold, her voice quiet. Thank you, she whispered. Evelyn walked over to her desk and picked up a folder. She placed it gently in front of Camille. Inside were printed emails, project reports, and timelines, all with Camille's name on them. But many of the emails had been forwarded by Lucas. In some, he had removed her name completely. In others, he added his name to her work. Camille stared at the papers. Her stomach turned. She looked up at Evelyn. How did you get these? I've had concerns about Lucas for some time, Evelyn said. You're not the only one he's done this to. But with you it's been worse. And more obvious. Camille felt a mix of emotions, shock, anger, confusion, and a small sense of relief. She hadn't imagined it. She wasn't crazy. You have two options, Evelyn continued. We can file a formal complaint and launch a full investigation. But that will take time, and you'll be forced to keep working under him until it's resolved. Or, Camille asked. Or, Evelyn said, you accept a promotion. There's a position open on Marissa Clark's team. She's our VP of strategy. I believe you'd thrive there. You'd report directly to her. No Lucas. No games. Camille stared at the folder again. A promotion? Her name finally attached to her own work? It felt like a dream, but also unfair. Why now? She asked softly. Why not before? Evelyn didn't avoid the question. Because this company still has a lot of problems. People like Lucas rise fast because they make noise. People like you keep the company running, but get overlooked. That's my failure. I want to fix it. Camille looked down at her hands. She didn't know if she felt happy or angry or both. If I take this promotion, she said, will Lucas still be there? For now, Evelyn answered. But we're not done with him. Camille nodded slowly. She thought of her mother. The bills. The long nights. The years of staying silent. Evelyn leaned forward. Camille, you don't have to be loud to lead. But you do have to stop shrinking. That sentence sat heavy in the room. Camille took a deep breath. Okay, she said. I'll take the job. Evelyn smiled. Good. You start Monday. Marissa already knows you're coming. As Camille walked out of the office, she felt different. Not strong yet, but no longer invisible. Something had changed. This time, she wasn't walking back to her desk. She was walking toward something new. Camille started her new role the following Monday. Everything felt different. The office was on a higher floor, the team was smaller, and the energy was serious but respectful. Her new boss, Marissa Clark, was known for being tough but fair. She welcomed Camille with a simple handshake and a short sentence. I've heard good things. Let's see what you can do. For the first time, Camille was allowed to speak in meetings. People listened when she talked. They asked her questions. They took notes. At first, she was nervous. Her voice was soft, and her hands shook under the table. But with each day, she grew more confident. She started to feel like maybe, just maybe, she belonged. But the peace didn't last long. Back downstairs, Lucas had noticed her move. He wasn't happy. Word spread quickly that Camille had been moved upstairs, and people started whispering. Some said she was the CEO's favorite. Others said she must have done something sneaky to get that promotion. Camille noticed the looks in the elevator, the way some people stopped talking when she walked by. Even a few co-workers she had trained started acting cold. One afternoon in the break room, she heard someone say, "Guess hard work isn't enough anymore. You just need to know the right people." She didn't respond. She just grabbed her tea and left. Later that week, June called her into a private HR room. "I'm just going to be honest," June said, lowering her voice. "Lucas is trying to start something." Camille's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "He's telling people you went over his head, that you embarrassed him in front of the CEO. And now he's making it sound like you used personal connections to move up." Camille looked down. She felt sick. June continued, "We've seen his behavior before, but he's smart. He doesn't leave a trail. But I'm keeping track now. You're not alone, Camille. Just keep doing your work and document everything." Camille nodded. "Thank you." Still, it hurt. She had worked so hard, kept her head down, done everything right, and still, she was being painted as the problem. The days got harder. The pressure grew. Marissa gave her more responsibility. It was a challenge, but Camille wanted to prove herself. She worked late, led team discussions, and even presented a strategy to the company's board members. That meeting changed something. She was sharp, clear, and confident. Afterward, Marissa pulled her aside and said, "That's the woman I hired." But back downstairs, things got worse. Lucas started sending emails to old teammates, trying to dig up anything he could to use against her. He even claimed that a report Camille worked on months ago had missing data. It wasn't true. But lies travel fast. Camille stayed quiet, but inside she was exhausted. She went home each night, sat with her laptop open, and barely had time to eat. Her mother, now recovering after a minor surgery, noticed. "You can't fight fire with silence forever," her mother said one evening. "I just want to do my job," Camille replied. "I know," Diane said gently, "but sometimes doing your job means standing up, even when you don't want to." One night, Camille got an anonymous email. The subject line read, "He's done this before." Attached were screenshots, messages between Lucas and another female employee from 2 years ago. The same pattern, stealing credit, pushing her out, rumors. That woman had quit. Quietly, Camille sent the email to June. June replied within minutes, "This helps. Thank you. Please save everything." The next morning, Camille walked into work, holding her head high. But the weight on her shoulders was growing heavier. She felt eyes watching her. Some people looked at her with pity, others with doubt. Then came the breaking point. At an all-team company strategy meeting, Camille was asked to give her analysis on a new project. Before she could finish speaking, Lucas interrupted from the back of the room. "Actually," he said loudly, "we already tried that idea 2 years ago. Didn't work." Camille froze. For a second, the old fear returned. But then, slowly, she turned to him and said calmly, "With all due respect, the market has changed. And the data we have now shows a very different trend." The room went quiet. Lucas smirked and looked away. Later that day, Marissa came to her desk. "I saw how you handled that. Don't let him shake you." But it was too late. The damage had already been done. That evening, Camille cried in her car. She sat in the parking lot long after most people had gone home. Her hands on the steering wheel, her shoulders shaking. She had always thought that if she worked hard enough, played fair, and stayed quiet, she would earn respect. But now, it felt like silence had only made her a target. For the first time, she considered quitting. But then she remembered Evelyn's words. "You have to stop shrinking." And June's, "You're not alone." Camille wiped her tears. She wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. The truth was starting to come out, and the storm was just beginning. 2 weeks later, Camille received an email from HR. The subject line was short, "Town Hall Invitation, Women in Leadership." The CEO had requested her to speak on a panel in front of the whole company. Camille stared at the screen, frozen. Speak? In front of everyone? The idea made her chest tighten. She wasn't a public speaker. She wasn't like Lucas or the others who loved being the center of attention. She had always stayed behind the scenes, quietly doing her work. But this time, she was being asked to step forward. She closed her laptop and sat back. Could she really do it? She called her mother that night. "They want me to speak at the town hall." There was a pause. Then her mother said, "Then speak. Tell your truth. If not for you, then for every girl who's walking in your shoes right now." Camille didn't sleep much that night. The day of the town hall arrived. The room was full, employees from every floor, managers, directors, executives. Lucas sat in the third row, arms crossed, pretending not to care. June stood in the back, giving Camille a small nod of support. The panel began with small talk, stories about growth and leadership. Camille barely heard the others. She felt her heartbeat in her ears. Then the moderator turned to her. "Camille," the woman said gently, "you've had quite a journey here. What does leadership mean to you?" Camille took a breath, then another, and then she spoke. "At first," she began, her voice soft, "I thought leadership meant being the loudest person in the room, the one who gets all the credit. But over time, I realized that sometimes, leadership means doing the hard work even when no one is watching." The room was quiet. "I used to believe that if I kept my head down and worked hard, someone would notice. But I learned that staying silent doesn't always protect you. It can make you invisible." She paused, eyes scanning the crowd. "I've had my work stolen. I've been ignored, doubted, talked about behind my back. I was passed over while others took the credit for things I built. I thought maybe it was my fault. Maybe I wasn't good enough. But I know better now." A few people shifted in their seats. "I'm speaking today not because I wanted the spotlight, but because I finally understood something. Silence doesn't change anything. And I won't be silent anymore." Gasps quietly rippled through the room. Then Evelyn Monroe, the CEO, stepped forward from her seat in the front row. She stood beside Camille and took the microphone. "Camille," she said, "thank you." Then she turned to face the crowd. What Camille didn't say, but what I will, is that she was the subject of a months-long internal review. During that time, we discovered serious misconduct involving the misattribution of work, abuse of power, and inappropriate behavior by a member of management. Lucas suddenly sat up straighter. "And as of this morning," Evelyn continued, "that individual is suspended, pending further investigation." Heads turned toward Lucas. His face turned red. He looked like he wanted to speak, but couldn't. The room broke into murmurs. A few claps. Then more. Lucas stood up. "This is ridiculous. I've given 10 years to this company. You're listening to someone who..." Evelyn raised her hand calmly. "Mr. Benton, please leave the room." Security appeared at the back. Lucas looked around. No one came to his defense. Not this time. He grabbed his bag and stormed out. Silence returned. Evelyn looked back at Camille. "Thank you for reminding us what leadership really looks like." The room erupted in applause. Not polite clapping. Real applause. People stood. Some had tears in their eyes. Camille's own eyes welled up, but she held it together. For the first time, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel hidden. After the town hall, people came up to her. Junior staff, older employees, even director. One young woman whispered, "You said everything I've been too afraid to say." Later that day, Evelyn sent out an all-staff email. New protections for whistleblowers, updated training for all managers, and a new diversity and ethics task force, led by Camille. It was a turning point. Not just for Camille, but for the whole company. She didn't just survive. She changed the game. In the weeks after the town hall, everything around Camille started to shift. People looked at her differently now, not with pity or doubt, but with respect. Colleagues who once avoided her now greeted her in the hallway. Some even asked for advice or mentorship. Camille didn't let the attention go to her head. She still arrived early and stayed late when needed. But now, she walked with her head high, her back straight. She no longer felt like she had to hide in the background. Lucas never returned. After the investigation finished, the company announced that he had officially resigned. It wasn't loud or messy, just a quiet email sent out one morning. Camille read it once, closed her laptop, and moved on. She didn't need revenge. The truth had already spoken. She now worked closely with Marissa and other department heads. Her name was finally showing up in emails, reports, and meetings. Not as a helper, but as a leader. Evelyn invited her to sit on the new Ethics and Leadership Task Force. Her role was to help create safer spaces in the company, especially for women and people from underrepresented backgrounds. Camille also began mentoring 3 young analysts, 2 women and 1 man, who reminded her of herself when she first started. She taught them not just how to write reports, but how to speak up, document their ideas, and protect their work. At home, things were better too. Her mother's health was improving, and she smiled more often. They spent quiet evenings together watching old movies, drinking tea, and laughing again. One evening, as they sat on the couch, her mother looked at her and said, "You look lighter." Camille smiled. "I feel lighter." "You did it," Diane said softly. "You stayed true to yourself." "I almost didn't," Camille admitted. "But I'm glad I didn't give up." "You never really do," her mother replied. A few days later, Camille was asked to speak again, this time to a group of new hires during orientation. She stood in front of the room and told them the truth about starting at the bottom, being overlooked, and finally learning how to use her voice. "You don't have to be loud to matter," she told them, "but never let anyone make you feel invisible." After the talk, one young woman came up and said, "Thank you. I've never seen someone like me at the front of the room before." Camille felt something shift inside her. Not fear, Not sadness. Pride. She had gone through fire, and she didn't just survive it. She built something new from the ashes. Not just for herself, but for the ones who would come after. The morning light came through the tall glass windows as Camille stepped into the Zenith Corp lobby. She wore a soft gray blazer and her favorite black heels, the ones she once saved up for, back when every dollar mattered. Her steps were calm, steady, sure. A young intern standing near the front desk saw her and quickly walked over. She looked nervous but excited. "Excuse me," the girl said, holding a notebook. "You're Camille Harris, right?" Camille smiled gently. "Yes, that's me. I just wanted to say your town hall speech. It's the reason I applied here. I watched it online 3 times. You made me believe there's a place for people like me in this world." Camille's eyes softened. She reached out and gently touched the girl's arm. "Thank you for telling me that," she said. "I'm glad you're here. You belong." The girl smiled wide and walked away, holding her notebook tighter. Camille stood for a moment, watching her go. She remembered a time not too long ago when she felt invisible, when her voice shook and her hands trembled just walking into a room, when she thought silence would protect her and hard work alone would carry her forward. But now she knew better. She had learned that the truth doesn't always shout, but it always finds its way. She walked toward the elevator, rode it up to the top floor, and entered the boardroom. She wasn't a guest anymore. She was a part of the team that made real decisions. She opened her laptop, sat at the table, and glanced around at the people beside her. People who now respected her. People who had seen what she could do. As the meeting started, Camille felt her phone buzz. A message from her mom. "Proud of you. Always." She smiled. The room quieted, and all eyes turned to her as she began the presentation. Her voice was calm, her words clear. She didn't need to prove herself anymore. She was here, and she wasn't going anywhere. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed Camille's story of quiet strength and rising above betrayal, be sure to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe for more drama-filled stories. Coming up next, her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked one seat beside. Don't miss it. Turn on notifications and stay tuned. Bye.